This Day in Sports History. And welcome back to This Day in Sports History, a proud member of the Sports History Network. It's September 16th, and on this day in 1989, Raghib Rocket Ismail did something that no college football player had done before or has done since. I've got to set the scene here first because this was a huge college football game during the 1989 season. The top-ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish, under the direction of Lou Holtz, traveled to Ann Arbor for a battle with number 2 Michigan, coached by Bo Schembechler. It was a bit rainy at the Big House that day, and wet field conditions are apparently good for the man everybody called Rocket. A year before, when Ismail had been a freshman, he'd run 2 kickoffs back for touchdowns in a rainy game against Rice. Prior to this one, Irish special teams coach Jay Hayes told Rocket that he just had a feeling, with the weather like it was, that another pair of kickoff returns for touchdowns was going to happen. With the Irish leading 7-6 to start the third quarter, the now sophomore Ismail exploded for the first one, and everybody found out why they called him the Rocket. Here's ABC's Keith Jackson with a call from that day.
And Michigan will kick off to Notre Dame. The Irish had won the toss and elected to defer, and now they start from the 12 with Ismail up the middle. He is gone, unless there's a flag behind him. No flags, touchdown.
It was an 88-yard kickoff return for the touchdown and the first kickoff return for a touchdown versus Michigan in 32 years. This was also the debut game for future NFL quarterback Elvis Grbac. He led a Wolverine drive and threw a touchdown pass to make it a 17-12 game, but this wasn't about an Elvis sighting on this day. This was about a rocket launch, and Ismail was about to head to the stratosphere on the ensuing kickoff after that touchdown by Michigan. Here's Keith Jackson again.
From the 9, here he comes. Rocket to the 30. Here he goes. Goodbye. Touchdown, Notre Dame, no flag.
That one was a 92-yarder, proving Irish assistant coach Jay Hayes to be a football Nostradamus. Notre Dame won the game 24-19. Now, there have been 25 guys in college football history to run 2 kickoffs back for touchdowns in a single game. But Raghib Rocket Ismail is the only player to run back 2 in 2 different games. How about another high-octane performance from this day in college football? Let's go to what happened on this day in 2000, when Kentucky State's Alvon Brown had himself a day. Kentucky State is a Division II HBCU, and on this day, 24 years ago, the Thoroughbreds were playing Kentucky Wesleyan. There was but one Thoroughbred on the field that day, though. Alvon Brown rolled up 405 yards rushing to set a Division II record. Unfortunately, Kentucky State had 160 yards in penalties that day. Now, Brown got some of those back on the next play or two, but his number would have been much bigger if a lot of that laundry dropped on the field had stayed in the referee's pockets instead. Brown said that whenever he eclipsed the 100-yard barrier, he'd take his O-line out for pancakes and OJ. But after 405 yards rushing, he splurged and took them all to Applebee's. Brown's mark was eclipsed 4 years later. Some big numbers were added to the stat sheet in a couple of baseball games on this day in history. In 1924, St. Louis Cardinal Jim Bottomley was a one-man run machine. In a 17-3 thrashing of the Brooklyn Dodgers, Bottomley drove in 12 of those 17. He homered twice, including a grand slam, collected 6 hits, and then topped Wilbert Robinson's previous record of 11 RBI when he singled home his 12th in the 9th inning. Wilbert Robinson had a good seat to watch his record get broken. He was the Dodger manager at the time. Now, Robinson had his name nearly removed from the record books again on this day in 1975. Pittsburgh's Rennie Stennett collected 7 hits in a 22-0 win over Chicago. Stennett became the first modern major leaguer to have 2 hits in an inning twice in the same game. His 7 hits in this 9-inning affair equaled Wilbert Robinson's 7 hits that he'd had 83 years earlier in 1892. And I'll finish off today's episode with this story from 2018. And this is a bit niche, but stay with me here. So, how fast do you think you could travel on a bicycle? Flat road, maybe 35 miles an hour tops? Okay, now how about flying down a hill? Maybe get up to 60 miles an hour? There's that scene in the movie Breaking Away when the guy's pacing behind an 18-wheeler and he achieves 80, but that's a movie. Okay. Now, what if you were on a specially made bike with huge gearing, riding behind a specially made dragster, and you were shielded from the wind? How fast could you go? How about 183.932 miles per hour? Well, on this day in 2018, Denise Mueller-Korenek broke the bicycling land speed record on the Bonneville Salt Flats with that speed. The previous record had been 167 miles per hour, set back in 1995. Now, there are some special rules and considerations here. The bike is tethered to the car to help get it up to speed, and then once over 110 miles per hour, it unhooks. The rider is riding in the car's slipstream, but it's a unique symbiotic relationship between driver and bike rider. Any issues with the car, like the engine blowing, tire failure, transmission failure, any sudden stop or unexpected slowing down, and it could lead to a catastrophic end for the cyclist. The bike still has to be pedaled and controlled in this slipstream. Mueller-Korenek's bike was specially built for this ride, of course. It had a wheelbase of over 7 feet. The tires were 17-inch motorcycle wheels and tires. It was equipped with dual cranks, one on each side, and each with gearing of 6212. The tether past 110 is necessary to actually get the bike moving because of the gearing. So on this day, it was a 5-mile ride, and in the final mile, she was able to pedal the bike untethered at 183.932 miles an hour to become the fastest human ever on a bicycle. It's pretty cool, and if you want to watch the video of her attempt, I've linked it in the show notes. Time now for today's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. Chinese sailor Poon Lim holds the record for the longest time spent adrift at sea at 133 days. His ship was torpedoed by the Germans during World War II. He managed to escape on a life raft equipped with limited supplies. He crafted a fishing line, a knife from a tin can, and a water still to distill salt water so he could drink. He was eventually rescued by a Brazilian fishing boat. That's all I've got for you today. This and every episode of This Day in Sports History is researched, written, voiced, and produced by me, Steve White. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for another edition of This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.